Hi there again, Miss Kaiser here. So now we are going to look inside of the heart. So we're still looking at the anterior side of the heart, but now we have dissected it so we can see the inside to see how these vessels flow into the heart and the four different chambers of the heart. So let's remember the two different pumps of the heart. The heart has two pumps. We've got the right side of the heart, which is the pulmonary pump. It's going to pump to the lungs. Pulmo means lungs. So that's going to contain deoxygenated blood. So anything that's part of the pulmonary side of the heart, we're going to represent with the color blue because it's deoxygenated blood. It's going to go to the lungs. Now we got the left side of the heart, which is the systemic pump. That contains oxygenated blood because it's coming back from the lungs to the heart. And the heart is going to pump that fresh blood to the whole body system, which is why it's called the systemic pump. So the heart is two pumps: pulmonary pump, systemic pump. The heart also has four chambers. Now I've represented it with abbreviations here, but I want you to write them all out or to know the words. So four chambers: two atriums, two ventricles. So we've got the right atrium and we've got the right ventricle. And then we've got the left atrium, this chamber here, and the left ventricle, this chamber here. We are also going to explore that the heart has four valves. These valves are responsible for keeping blood flowing in the correct direction, and they're found inside the heart. And we're also going to learn the major vessels of the heart, so the veins and the arteries that deliver blood to and from the heart. So what I want you to do right now is just focus on labeling and color coding, and then we are going to talk about the path of blood flow through the heart. So I'll help you with some of the labeling, and then we'll go through the path of blood flow through the heart. So let me use a pointer here. So this vessel right here is the superior vena cava. And then we've got another vein down here. Okay, this is represented with the letter 8 here. That is the inferior vena cava. Excuse me. You can remember that it's a vein because it's in the name, vena cava. The vena cavas go into the right atrium. So that is this chamber here, RA, right atrium. And then it is separated by the right ventricle with a valve. These are one of the atrial ventricular valves, AV valves, called the tricuspid valve. We have another valve on the right side of the heart as well. This is the pulmonary valve. This valve opens up so blood can leave the heart and get pumped to the lungs. It travels through the pulmonary arteries. So this structure right here, represented with the number 5, is the pulmonary arteries. It's arteries because it branches out into two arteries, the left artery and then the right artery, the left and right pulmonary arteries, because it goes into the left lung, and then this side goes into the right lung. The next major vessel would be the pulmonary veins. So that's what these are here, represented with the letter or the number 9. These are veins. There's the left side and the right side of the pulmonary veins. They all come into the left atrium right here. It's now going to pass through our third valve. The third valve is the mitral valve, mitral. That's the other atrioventricular valve. And it separates the left atrium and the left ventricle. So here we have the left ventricle here. And then we've got the fourth and final valve, the aortic valve. It's called the aortic valve because the next structure, the next major artery, is the aorta. And so here is the aorta. It's the largest artery of the body. All right, so now that we have it labeled, let's talk about path of blood flow through the heart. Okay, so remember to have your red and your blue colors. I'm going to grab my red and blue colors too. So we're going to start with deoxygenated blood. This is blood that no longer contains oxygen. It's been used by all the cells in the body. And so the heart is now responsible for pumping that blood to the lungs so the lungs can then bring oxygen to that blood. So we're going to start with using the color blue. We're going to start with the right side of the heart. Blood is either going to come in through the superior vena cava. So I'm going to draw some arrows to show blood flow. So if it's coming from the top half of the body, it's coming through the superior vena cava. If it's coming from the bottom half of the body, it's going to go through the inferior vena cava. Now this vena cava, you can't see it from this picture, but it comes around the backside of the heart. Both the vena cavas go into the right atrium here. So blood's going to come in through the right atrium. Then the tricuspid valve is going to open up, and the blood is then going to flow into the right ventricle. After it's in the right ventricle, the heart is going to pump, it's going to contract, and it is going to go through the pulmonary valve, that's this valve right here, into the pulmonary arteries. So here is blood flowing through the pulmonary arteries. It's either going to branch left to the left pulmonary artery, or it's going to branch right to the right pulmonary arteries. Now, it's out into the arteries that surround the lungs right now. And so the lungs are breathing, it's picking up oxygen. Those red blood cells are picking up oxygen. So now this blood is going to be represented with the color red. So blood that's coming back from the lungs is now oxygenated, and it's going to come back to the heart through the pulmonary veins here. So there's kind of like 4 of them, but then it comes together as one. And it comes in through the backside of the heart, and it all dumps into the left atrium here. So blood goes in through the left atrium, and it travels through the mitral valve. So the mitral valve opens, and that blood goes now into the left ventricle. After it's gone to the left ventricle, that aortic valve is going to open up. The heart is going to contract, and it's going to pump that blood through the aortic valve, and it's going to travel through the largest artery of the body, the aorta. And the aorta branches out a whole bunch of times. This part of the aorta is going to go up to the brain, and then the rest is going to go down to the descending side of the aorta. And then again, the aorta actually goes all the way down to pretty much the bottom of your back, and then it branches out multiple times throughout, kind of like the main trunk of the tree, and it branches out to smaller arteries, and it delivers that fresh oxygenated blood to the body. Now, once the body uses that blood up, the blood is then now deoxygenated, and it's going to come back into the superior or inferior vena cavas. So it's one whole circulatory system. It's one big circle, essentially. It's one way movement, okay? And the heart, the valves, the way it pumps allows for blood to move one way through the body. So with that, now that we have learned the different structures of the heart and how blood is pumped through the heart, you should be able to answer page 38 now. So some of it's been filled out for you, some of it isn't. So you're going to have to, you are responsible for filling this out to review the pumps, chambers, vessels, and valves, and how blood is pumped through the heart. Make sure that you take your blue and your red to shade or outline the parts of the heart that are part of the systemic versus parts of the heart that are part of the pulmonary side of the heart. So you're going to use blue and red to represent that. All right, good luck, and make sure you check in with your teacher if you need extra help or have any questions.